I started from nothing, never knew where my next meal was coming. But I transformed my life, I stay one step ahead. Mindset of disruption, I own the edge. This is the ThrillCast, where I bring the wisdom you need. Everyone is selling knowledge, I give mine away for free. I'm as real as it gets, you either love or hate me. Best believe I'm Major League Bill Hynes, that's me. This is the ThrillCast. This is the ThrillCast. This is the ThrillCast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ThrillCast. We are back. We're going to have a nice schedule going forward, and I'm excited for my next guest. And what a better way to start this new podcast season with Davey Hamilton Jr. Davey Hamilton Jr. is fresh off one of his biggest race wins of his career, and actually it's probably his second, I believe it's a second non-winged win, but it was the Dave Steele 125, huge non-winged race. And I'm first off, welcome Davey Hamilton Jr. on the ThrillCast, and it's great to have you as a guest. And how you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. We you and I have talked about me being on the show for quite a while now, so it's pretty cool to join. Everything's good. I mean, as you know, I've been racing a lot in the sprint car world, and
too much. I'm jealous.
Too much. Yeah,
I'm fucking jealous of you, man.
We had like 60 races, I think, on our schedule for this year. So yeah, you could race every weekend, man. It's fun. You got to get in a sprint car yourself, dude. We can make that happen.
Well, I saw Paul Morris do a tumble down in Parramatta in Australia, and I'm like, okay. And I've been upside down many times in Stadium Super Truck, so I don't know. Maybe it's less hurtful in the dirt. But yeah, so I want to talk to you about first and foremost this Dave. Before we get into like your past and who your dad is, that IndyCar driver, now the IndyCar radio guy that I love. But we'll get into that, and we got to bring it up, because you are the son of, but you're also out there making your own name for yourself. So the Dave Steele 125. So I'm pounding the desk. My producer keeps saying, "Don't pound it." I get excited because I love racing, and so do you. And so last year I watched the race, and you put it on pole, right? And you led. Probably you dominated that race, but I think no offense, you were kind of shitty on your restarts, if I remember correct. I'm like watching the race, and I'm just like, fuck, Dave, what are you doing? Because you're normally better than that. You normally nail those, and then you just can pull out to a lead. So I don't know if it was a car problem or what was going on, but talk us through that race, because toward the end of the race, you got passed and you lost that race, and you finished second. So good result. I mean, most people in that race would have been like, great, it's a win, and me and you would go, no, it's a second place, and it's actually the first loser. So I want to talk to you about that race, because I believe what you learned in that race really set you up for this big win this year.
So prior to that race, I wasn't racing anything for a couple of years, as you know.
A little rusty.
I was very rusty, and like you said, I led most of the race, and I lost it on a restart.
Yep.
The sprint cars have, 850 horsepower, and you go from like a dead stop to going, and I wasn't really used to that. So I struggled with wheel spin going into turn one, and Kyle O'Gara is the one that is the guy that won it. But he was able to get a good run, and I just couldn't catch him after that, and I had like no tire left. So this year, when the race came about, I knew to save my tires and, be a lot easier on the restarts. And I actually lost the lead every restart that we had this race. But because I had tire left, I was able to get really good runs and end up winning the race.
Yeah, I noticed that in this race that you and Shane Butler were trading the lead, but then around like lap 29, you just, I don't know, you found another gear, and then you built such a fucking big lead. I'm like, all right, if he fucks this win up, like I'm gonna go smack him or something like that. But it's I believe it's your second ever non-winged victory, and I'm going to ask you later to describe to the listeners, like some are new race fans, some are not, some music fans, the difference between winged and non-winged. And with that came over $6,000 in prize money, so not a bad day at the office. And next time we're together down in Tampa or St. Pete, you're buying something.
Okay.
Yeah, pizza.
Yeah, that's fine with me, man. It was a good payday. A lot of the sprint car races, on pavement wise, they're not the best purses. So that was a good one. Here's the thing is, like, when you're racing that much, if you have a bad night, you could usually, come back from like the less money races to try to recoup your earnings.
Yeah.
But if you're doing really well in every race, I mean, you're making a pretty good living.
You're doing a nice 6-figure. Yeah, plus you got sponsors that are paying the bill.
Yep.
So that's why you can have nice condos in Tampa. Like
that's right. That's why I have a nice condo in Tampa.
Exactly. And a lot of and kind of segue into we're going to bounce around just to wherever the topic takes, and this is not a scripted, so everyone knows that from watching it. So most people think like, oh, Davey Hamilton Jr., his dad was an IndyCar racer, and the dad just gives him the millions and millions. And, your dad, he's a very accomplished, very successful guy. But, your dad also raised you the right way where it's like, hey, son, you got to make it on your own, and you are. So it's like, this is your money and you're earning it, and you're doing, like, your dad's not in the car racing with you. And man, I remember, what was it, the little 500 a couple years ago when you got pole on that one. Your dad was probably more excited than you. Like, he was so proud of you. I thought he was gonna punch you or something. Like, he was
well, actually, here's a funny story about that one real quick is I was qualifying for the Indy Lights race at the Freedom 100 and got a helicopter, flew to that race, and my dad goes, hey, you're not going to qualify. You just need to go fire up the car, run a couple laps, and make sure everything's up to temperature, basically. And then we'll make a qualifying run later. Yeah. So he told me not to qualify. Well, I went out there, I made my warm-up lap, and I had a chance to look at the timing board and saw that it was a pretty good lap. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go for it. And I'm either going to come back into the pits and my dad's going to be cheering, or he's going to be pissed off. And luckily we got the pole, because, his reaction would have been very bad if I did it. So it's funny. A lot of people don't know that is I wasn't even supposed to qualify that run. And we ended up doing it, and it worked out for us. Unfortunately, that was probably our best chance at winning that race. And we led half the race.
Same thing, dominated
the motor.
Yep. Yeah. And that's not your fault, but I mean, your dad was excited. I knew you took the helicopter, and that was probably one I read, and also just from knowing you, that's one of the coolest moments where it's like, okay, I'm at the Indy 500, I'm at the Indianapolis 500 or IMS, Motor Speedway, and I get in a helicopter and I fly and do a qualifying run, and literally you legit had an opportunity to win both those races, but just misfortune. So like, that would have been cool if you would have ticked off like a Freedom 100 and a win at IMS and a win at the little 500. That would have been
it'd been huge, man.
That would have that would have.
Well, I'm just thankful that I was able to compete in the Freedom 100. It didn't go the way we wanted it to, but now, since that race doesn't exist, I'm just glad I was able to have my name on the list of drivers that have competed in that race.
And I'll tell you that race, though, I missed that race, and I really think that, Roger Penske needs to put that race back, because think of like 4 or 5 years in a row, it was like 4 wide coming out of turn 4 at the finish. And like Gabi Chavez, Sage Karam, Carlos Munoz, like all these guys in the past that were just coming, like Dempsey, and like the person who came off of turn 4 fourth sometimes won it. Sometimes it was pole to pole, but it was such an exciting race, and it really, I think, set the tone for the Sunday race.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think everybody does too. I think everybody thinks that race should come back. And I mean, right now you have such a good field of Indy Lights cars. Like,
oh my God,
22. Can you imagine if there was a Freedom 100 this year with that many cars?
A lot of good drafting.
Oh my, that would be amazing. And an Indy Lights car at the Speedway is actually pretty I don't want to call it easy, but they're very equal as far as competition goes. You're kind of full throttle the whole time. So it's easy to get a draft. And that's why you're seeing, 2 wide, 3 wide, 4 wide even, and those cars are on that track. But I hope there's enough people one day that can kind of change Roger's mind and hopefully bring that race back, because it is a stepping stone to IndyCar too. That's our Indy 500. And, we're getting experience going 200 plus miles an hour on a big track like that. And right now there's, you just get thrown into an IndyCar for the 500 now, like without really any kind of experience. So,
well, yeah, your oval experience is like St. Louis, which is like a mile and a half, and then Iowa, which is a 7/8 mile bull ring, and you're just like,
it's totally different.
Yeah, you're not getting nowhere near the speeds that you would be getting on a 2.5 mile. Just honestly, to me, everyone says, "Well, what's the best race ever?" And I'm like, listen, I'll never be in an Indy 500. I know that, but to me, the bet that it's palpable. Like, you feel the energy of the 300,000 plus, and it's, to me, the best sporting event in the world. Like, and I'm a huge baseball fan, but like, I love the Yankees, and I go to the World Series, and I go to games, and I go to hockey matches, and I go to soccer, but man, so racing isn't even my first love. Baseball is, but I'll pick going to the Indy 500. They're like, oh, well, Monaco's the same day. Would you go to fuck no, I'm not going to Monaco. If I have a chance to be at the Indianapolis 500, I'm going every damn year, because that energy. Like, can you explain that? And your dad, actually, I don't know how many did your dad race in? Like
12.
12. Yeah. And your dad is a 3-time, like, he finished second in the championship points 3 times between kart and IndyCar. Like, fucking a veteran of the sport, and he's so knowledgeable. And I know that has rubbed off on you, because I see it in your racing, how, like, in this the Dave Steele race, you were very patient. Okay. You were trading the lead, you were saving your tires. And that's the thing. You had your tires this year, whereas last year, you were getting some wheel spin and different things. And I noticed that, and it can't help but rub off to have that man as a father. And then, if anyone listens to IndyCar radio, the guy will, like, your dad will, and I'll text you during the race. I'm like, man, I turn off the TV because your dad's so good. And he's telling the audience, like, what's going to happen in the race just from looking at the telemetry and the data and then just seeing it. And he's like, and sure enough, it happens. He's like, oh, they can't do that. It's going to cause a wreck. And I was like, shit, your dad was right. Kind of reminds me of like Tony Romo in football, where he's like, telegraphing the play. So talk about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, we need to be riding up to NBC and tell them they need to get my dad on the broadcast for that, because like you said, there's so many people that reach out to me that talk about how my dad's just so knowledgeable. And, as you know, in the IndyCar paddock, everybody that knows my dad love him. Like,
loves him.
He's like one of the nicest guys there. And
awesome.
He's been around for so long, and yeah, he calls it out, and I mean, he's very, very rarely is he ever wrong on that he says. So I think I think it's good to have him in the radio booth, but I think he deserves to be on TV for sure.
110%.
Yeah.
I'll drive by him on the scooter, and I'll be like, did you see the race before it happened? And he starts laughing. And I'm like, what was it on, like, tape delay? Like, what the fuck's going on, Davey? Like, and he's just like, oh, been around and man, but I'll tell you right now, so you probably, obviously you were a kid. He had that horrific wreck that really hurt him. And man, if he didn't get hurt, I think he had some championships in him and a lot of wins in him. But talk us even through that. Like, as a kid, seeing your dad go through that, like, what was that like?
Yeah, that was tough, man. He actually had a contract with one of the higher teams. I'm not going to say who, but he had a contract with a very high team prior to that incident. So that incident changed his career, obviously, and
drastically.
He was just lucky to be alive, honestly. It sucks, man. I was so young. I was 4 years old when that happened, but I remember him being in a wheelchair for years and crutches all the time, and it was tough as like a kid, and I was off starting my racing career the same time that he got in his accident.
Ended,
So as a kid, I was going to my races without my dad. he was never there. It was like my grandfather or the teams that were helping me as a kid. And but it's cool too, because like now that I'm older and I look back, and I think I really like it affected me in 2011 at the Vegas race when Dan Weldon passed away.
That was horrible.
Because my dad was in that race, and I didn't realize how these guys are racing for their like it's their life, and in a matter of seconds you could lose that. And it didn't hit me until that race that I was like, wow, my dad, I'm just lucky I have a dad. But it's cool to hear that he has this huge comeback, and like the 2007 Indy 500 was like the coolest thing ever. Like as a kid, I was like, man, my dad's an IndyCar driver. I was running around. Everybody kind of hated me because I wasn't the nicest kid. I was just
you were annoying. I heard.
Yeah, I was a punk. And but hearing everybody else talk about how cool it was for him to have that comeback, it means a lot to me. He's my hero for sure. So hopefully I can make him proud of my racing. I've followed his footsteps, and like you said, having him as a teacher is probably why I'm doing as successful as I am right now in my racing. He told me though, he's like, his winning streak has been the most he's ever had in a row is 4. And I think we're at 9 right now.
You're at 9 for winged, right?
Yeah, for winged string cars. Yeah, dude. So that's like unheard of.
Well, your streak for non-winged is 1, but it's a big one. That Dave Steele 125, that's a big one. So, but I think your dad had like 8 or 9 surgeries just to be able to walk again. Like that, like that's a guy that just like you got a mentor and a person in your life that basically taught, if anything, like, hey, bad things may happen, but don't give up. Exactly. Like he had 1 surgery, couldn't walk, had another. Like honestly, most people after 2 or 3 would be like, fuck it, all right, I guess I'm in this like fucking chair. Like he didn't give up, and like you can't tell. Like I see him walking. Like my fat ass is riding around on one of those Honda Cubs, and he's walking around, and he's like, hey, Bill. I'm like, maybe he should be riding in it, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a problem right now. Is like just in this past weekend, the Grand Prix of St. Pete. My dad does, we have our hospitality unit. He does the radio for IndyCar. He does the radio for Indy Lights. He does the IndyCar 2-seater. And as you know, as a street course, everything's far away. It's not like,
oh my God, some longer than others.
Right.
Like and Road America, Mid Ohio.
Yeah. And my dad, he didn't have his scooter here. And, I brought one of my bikes down so he could like ride it to get around. He's like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And his feet still bleed to this day. It's not like they're all healed. They're still bleeding. He still has to change his shoes sometimes and his socks throughout the day. It kills me, man, because like he overworks. You know that.
He doesn't complain.
He doesn't complain, and he's like the hardest worker I know. But if you see a guy like him working as hard as he does, there's no excuse for somebody just to not be working, because he's in pain, and he's a hard worker. He's always doing something, and he ain't scared to show it off either. You've seen him in shorts. He wears shorts all the time, and his legs are still like they look like they were burned really bad. But it's all rebuilt from skin. They took skin from his back and they built his legs with bolts and screws and nails, and his ankles are fused now, so he can't even walk properly like we can. He can't move his ankle, like we could.
I know.
Yeah.
So what's that say about people like you and me and Matt Brabham and our friends and Ari Lyondike Jr. that we have people we know that are friends that get into these wrecks, like a Matt Mingay, in the 2016 Detroit race in SST. We see it happen in races with us. Shit, I had that Chinese driver land on top of my roof, and I'm like, my whole head. And if you see my onboard, I'm like this. I'm like on my head, and I'm just like, it felt like electricity going through my brain. I'm like, what the fuck just happened, right? And then I remember one of the other driver goes, it was like banzai, or like I was like, that's Japan, not to, like, I was like, they didn't have kamikaze pilots, just fucking around, joking. But what's that say, like, that we still jump in the car, we still jump in the truck, and we still, as they say, like, what was it, Senna? Like, hey, if you don't try for the gap, you're not a race car driver anymore. And we're still doing it. Like, heck, I'm 51 now, and but you're still a kid, and but like we still do it.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. Maybe you can explain it. Like I know Brabham was on this show, Burt Jenner was on this show. Heck, Max Gordon, even at that young age, and Ben Meyer, like all fellow drivers, and we're gonna get more drivers on, but nobody has been able to intelligently explain it to the masses, like what it is that just other than like we're just nuts, I guess. Like what I still can't. I have friends that are musicians, and they say like, hey, just playing the drums or something like that, or guitars, or singing in front of a crowd. It's like for us, it's not even the crowd because we don't see them. No. We're really in our own little. To me, it quiets down. Like I'll be sleeping before the start of the race. I'm like waking up and there's a green flag. That's why I jump to start sometimes. I'm like the famous thrill jump start.
Yeah, I think we just when you get a taste of racing as a driver. You're in like it's just something. It's like naturally it just goes into your blood, and you just don't want to stop. Like that's why you see all these like old IndyCar drivers or even older guys. They retire, but they really don't retire. They go and do sports car racing, or try to get in NASCAR or something different because you just can't stop.
What about your dad and Mario doing the 2-seater, and they're like taking it around Indianapolis 500 or the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I should say, the track, not the race, and at 200 miles an hour in a fucking 2-seater.
Yeah, I know, and they just don't stop, right? I mean, you've been in accidents. Like I've broken my back twice, and
I wanted to talk about that. I had notes for that because you actually posted on Instagram a photo of you high in the air, like you were in rarefied air, like you're like, this is probably where I broke my back. So talk about SST, and I want to know, obviously being one of the second longest SST drivers in history, second to Robbie I am, and second most starts of all time as well. Like I loved having you in the racing because like I always knew what Davey Hamilton Jr. was going to do, just like I always know what like Ari was going to do or Burt Jenner was going to do. Now like PJ Jones, nobody really ever knew what he was going to do.
PJ Jones,
EJ Vizo, Sheldon Creed. It's like but I mean certain drivers give you that space, like Brabham and even Stout now. Max, sometimes he's young, you don't know what he's doing yet, but you figure it out. Robbie Gordon, you know what he's going to do. So will you be back to Stadium Super Trucks ever? Or you don't think so?
There's just no chance, man. I love Stadium Super Truck racing, and I would do it full time. I want to win a race one day, but 2017 I broke my back in St. Pete, and we didn't know I broke my back. But you know how these trucks, when you land, if you land wrong, it like shoots up your spine.
Brutal.
And I think I just landed wrong, and I continued racing all year with like back pain, and I just never went and like seen a doctor. Well, not fortunately, I got in a really bad sprint car wreck and later on in the year, and they broke a rib and had a concussion, and they found out that my T4 in my spine was fractured, but it wasn't new. It was like fractured. They could, for however they could tell like how long ago it was. And
they could tell for how it starts to heal.
So we determined it was from St. Pete. And then this past year racing in Long Beach in the trucks, same freaking thing, man. I landed wrong and instantly felt it was the exact same pain. Went to the doctor, and the IndyCar doctors, I mean, you know them, they're the best in the world, I think. And they basically said, if you take another hit like that, it could be bad news for you, like your career, and you may not be racing again, if not walking again, right? So I have to look at that as, okay, no more jumping for me. Count me out on that. It's the jumping, no more jumping, no more compression. I'm a skinny guy. I'm a skinny, tall dude. So
I didn't notice. I'm just kidding. I did. If the wind blows a certain way coming off the ocean in the Pacific, you don't need the plane ride back to Tampa. You're just there.
Yeah, I put weight in my shoes so I don't fly away in the wind, right? So,
I would hate to race you in like open wheel or any type of car where they ballast the weight. I'd be, I'm like 220 and actually I'm COVID. I got up to 230, but I'm on my supermodel body diet now, so I'll be back. I'm projected by the time I race in Long Beach this year, I'll be I'll be down to like 205, my fighting weight, my supermodel body weight, put the bikini on.
Dude. There you go. I can't even get past 125. Like I try to eat as much as I can. I have a trainer now that's trying to help me build some.
Just got to go on Gold Belly and just order all this food they have. I'm like addicted. During COVID, I was addicted to Gold Belly. I was ordering food like Jim's Steaks, Gino Steaks from Philly, like Peter Luger Steaks from New York City, and just I had all this stuff come. My kids were like, "Dad, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, we can't go out," so it's kind of funny. But so Stadium Super Trucks is done, and actually most people don't even know. Like what you just alluded to, your dad owns the like a hospitality suite, and he provides that for so if you're at SST, that's actually Davey Hamilton Sr.'s whole crew, his employees. They're cooking for all our guests and providing the food and the hospitality. So like guests and sponsors could come to Stadium Super Trucks, and they're putting on that. But when he's not doing Stadium Super Trucks, he's doing probably Indy Lights or Indy Pro 2000. I don't even know what it's called anymore. The USF 2000 Pro. 2000, Like what is it? Yeah.
They just keep changing the names on everything, man. Yeah. Even Indy Next, right?
Indy Next. Yeah. Honestly, here's the thing. Recently was the St. Pete race opening IndyCar. I want to say that the racecraft from all the racers in every series was so disappointing this past weekend, from Indy Next to Indy Pro 2000 and even IndyCar. Made for, it's like in hockey, you want to see the fights, and baseball, you want to see the brawls or a high-scoring game. Football, you want to see a high-scoring game. But to me, in racing, I don't want to see accidents. I want to see really setting up passes. I want to see, the low scoring game, so to speak. I mean, I love seeing races where there's no yellows, unless I'm in the car and I'm like, fuck, I need a yellow right now. But you know what I mean? It was really hey, I like Scott McLaughlin. I met him in Australia at the Norwell Motorplex we were down there with Paul Morris. Nice guy, but probably should have gave Roman Grosjean some room. That was, and you don't know, he's on cold tires and the back end skips out. Two cars went airborne. I was like, whoa, I tweeted, I said, St. Pete's missing Stadium Super Trucks right about now. We're supposed to do that. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
But the safety in the cars, man, they come a long way, because you mentioned the Dan Weldon crash in 2011. And obviously then later on there was Justin Wilson at Pocono. But, man, if they had cars like this, I think both of them would be alive today. And that's a fact.
No, that's for sure a fact. I agree. I don't know whose car it was. Was it maybe Santino Ferrucci's? I think they showed a picture of the windscreen of
his was,
Yeah, and you could just see the tire marks. And
that was open. That he was getting hit with a tire or a fuel slot. Something was going to hit him. But that whole windscreen, man, kudos to. And I think that's a better option than say what the Halo is in F1 for me, because think about that. If Roman Grosjean in that F1 crash, that Halo, the fire got into the cockpit, whereas there's fire suppression in there. So if that would happen, he would actually, I think not got burned as much that he did, because his hands, everything, the fire was on the outside. Inside, the fire suppression would have went off, and he would have had that protection around him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think IndyCar is probably one of the most safest cars out there right now.
I think it's the most competitive series. 1 through 20 can win a race. And they're within a few tenths of qualifying with each other. So I really think it's to me, the best form of racing out there. It's so pure.
I agree. The only thing that sucked, like you said, though, this weekend, you don't want to see 14 cars get taken out. There's only 12, 13 cars that finish the race.
Yeah.
It's not good to see. And then your buddy, Andretti, he spent some money this weekend, from damage.
Honestly, I felt bad for Michael, because his team was the strongest all weekend. Yeah. And then he had a chance to win. Literally, I think between him and Herter, they definitely had a chance at a 1-2 finish. And, Grosjean's capable. Colton Herta has already, 7-8 wins in IndyCar in his young career. He's putting on a show. But what happened? Dixie's right there. The GOAT. Dixon's amazing. And, everyone's like, oh, he didn't get that penalty. And I was arguing with a guy on Twitter. It's when your name's Scott Dixon, yeah, you can compare him to MJ, Michael Jordan, because he's that good and what he's done. And and we actually know the racing stewards. We won't mention their names, Pappas and Lyondike Sr.
Yeah,
so,
right.
These guys, they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the senior drivers. They're going to be like, oh, it must be, it just happened. Just like you're not going to see LeBron get called for a travel or Michael Jordan called for a travel type of thing like that.
Yeah.
So
unless it's like blatantly obvious and they like have no choice but to, you're not.
Yeah. Like it's like, actually, and I saw one of the younger guys, man. I'll send you the video. I was like, how is that not a block? He was like he made 4 moves, like on a restart. One of them, yeah. I forget who it was.
Send that over.
I just remember saying that was a block. So
yeah. No. I mean, other than that, though, it's good to see, like, for whatever reason, the length of the fields and everything that we have this year. Like Indy Lights, it's a strong field. IndyCar, I think that was the most cars they've had at St. Pete
forever. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, in the series for like forever. Like obviously the Indy 500 will always get 33, and there'd be I like bump day, but
well, I think that's what sucks though, is like like in today's IndyCar world is that all these engines are leased out. Well, there's only so many of them, right?
Yeah.
And that puts a tough. It makes the one-off guys' jobs a lot harder to go find a ride just for the Indy 500 like it used to.
Yeah,
because it all depends on if there's an engine or a car out there. And in today's world, it's like you may see 35 cars at the 500 total. And there's only a couple guys that could bump their way in.
Yeah.
I miss the days like when my dad raced and you had 40 cars show up, and bump day was like,
bump day. Yeah. Well, I think now with IndyCar, it's like if you're not in a main team and again like a full-time team, it's so hard because one, like not even just the engine or the equipment, but you are getting inferior equipment. You're getting kind of leftover scraps. And the other thing you're getting is like, yeah, you're going to get a good engine, or, because the engines are all the same from Honda or Chevy or whatever. But talk about like, hey, last weekend, your left rear tire changer was drinking a beer watching the race because he was unemployed because he was not part of the full-time team. He's not working out. Your fueler. How many times I've seen a fueler, like a new fueler, like let's just say the one got fired or left, and then there's a new fueler. Like one time in Detroit, the guy couldn't get it into the hole or got it stuck and it broke, and like it was there for 13 seconds. Forget it. If you're 13 seconds on an oval,
usually your day's over.
You're like over a half a lap. You're like a mile down.
Yeah. Well, like I look at it like this too. Is like the one team I'd say that's like impressed me the most is like Juncos. Like how they had like no budget. They were trying. They were doing like one-off IndyCar races, and they're starting to build this like
they did. They had they'd have a top 5 this weekend.
I think they got 5th. Man.
They got 5th. Yeah, that's really good for a small team. So
yeah, and they're growing, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, like the personnel and the crew side of things. I don't know if you're familiar, but the Indy Lights team HMD. Are you familiar with how many cars they have?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they won the championship last year with. But even him, he won the champ was Linus. Right? He did. Yeah. Peterson's in IndyCar this year. Like. This guy won the championship, and actually, what did they give him? Like $1.5 million. And he does not have a ride. Like he bring $1.5 million to any team. That's how competitive it is. Stingray Robb got in. He finished like 2nd or 3rd in championship. But like, there's like to me, I think Matt Brabham deserves a shot in IndyCar. Like to me, nobody will ever convince me that Matt Brabham wouldn't be one of the top 20 drivers in that field right now. Like he's just calculated and he's very good. And I think if you got a shot, even a full season with a good team, like an Andretti, an HMD, or like one of them teams, if you did a full season in IndyCar in Indy Lights, I think you have that pedigree in you. Like Kyle Larson, everyone that does these dirt, like they're so good on ovals. Like you would eat that stuff up, Yeah,
no, that's the thing, man. I appreciate that because I never really got a chance to be full time, and that's and it's been due to budget.
It's one-offs,
yeah. So I actually, when I ran the Freedom, we had the fastest lap of the race.
I saw that. Yeah.
The problem is that coming out of turn 2, I had the engineer and I, like the setup we had was kind of still built for qualifying,
Yeah.
and not race trim. So I had less downforce compared to anybody else out there. And it made it really tough being in dirty air. So out of turn 2, I was
Loose.
full lock sideways, like dirt car in it,
Yeah.
out of turn 2, and I saved it. I don't know how, but that would have been, that
Skill?
usually is a wreck. Yeah. So after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to take it cautiously, you know, going into 3, and I lost the draft. So my day was done. There was no yellow, but other than that, man, you know, it's, I appreciate that. Hopefully I'm going to keep working hard to try to find sponsorship to do more racing. And I would like to be back in the Indy Lights, you know,
Yeah, it's
series.
so competitive, man.
Yeah.
I think the world needs a Brabham and a Davey Hamilton Jr. in the Indy 500 one day. I mean, those are the names that are great for the history of the sport. So not only is Davey Hamilton Jr. a race car driver and a freaking very good one, and again, I'm gonna miss you in Stadium Super Trucks, but if I see you on the track, I'll wave as I'm flying. You know how I like to take my hands off the wheel. That never ends good. Just for the show. So you have a new company, an asphalt company. So how's that going? Like, what's it like to just say, hey, you know what, you know, I want to diversify myself. You know, I'm making good money racing, and I just want to start another company. And
so the asphalt deal, I actually sold that company. I started it last year.
Whoa! Breaking news.
Yeah.
That quick?
Yeah, dude. Well, it was tough because it was a company that was like me and my best friend did it together.
That never works out.
It's not always the best thing. So we
watch who your business partners are.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
guys, that was my one jab.
Yep. And so the problem was that I started traveling with racing a lot, and I was gone 24/7. So I like gave it on to my best friend to like basically run everything while I was gone, and it just got too much, man. And we weren't clicking at all, and I didn't really need the business. I didn't need that income. I wasn't really paying myself. I was just kind of making sure it was staying alive. And it just got to the point I'm like, all right, me and him just keep butting heads too much. We're not going to agree. And it was time to like shut it down. And luckily I was able to sell everything, and I actually made money on the deal, which is kind of rare for a very new company.
That's always a good thing. Yeah.
But I've been busy, man. So like lately I got, you know, I'm racing all the time, doing everything I can there, but I became a DJ on the side.
I saw that. At first I was seeing these promos. I'm like, does he know? I had to text you. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, are you in a band? And you're like, no, I'm a DJ. I'm like, oh, okay. Cause it looked like it was like a band. Like I'm like, right. I didn't know he could sing or dance or play guitar or something like that. You're like, no, I'm a DJ. So tell us about that. And, you know, where are you going to be at with your partner there? And like, you know, tell us about the DJing, the name of it, any appearances. Tell us about that. You know, what type of DJing is it, you know?
Yeah, so our name is Elusive. So if you guys like want to go check us out, it's Elusive. And you know, I told you kind of at the beginning of the show, is that I didn't do anything for a couple years, unfortunately, and that time made me learn a lot of different things while I wasn't really doing anything. Now I'm in this mindset where like if I dream about wanting to do something, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna do whatever I can to make it happen. So I always had this passion for like performing at shows and like doing festivals and, you know, just like pumping up a crowd. So I sat there and just learned how to play with the equipment, and I actually learned how to produce or make some songs. It wasn't the best, but like learn how to produce a little bit. And I started networking like crazy and reaching out to all my connections, and eventually came across my partner in it, Omar, and he was an established DJ. Like he's very good.
He's really good. I saw your work. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's kind of taken me on as like, he's like my teacher, and like just constantly teaching me how to be better and do things. Well, we just had our first show in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago.
Saw that.
There was a couple hundred people there. And I was nervous as heck, man. That was my first time ever being like on a stage. Like it's weird.
That's not true.
Yeah, well, like that's the thing, right? Like, we could race cars in front of 100,000 people, and be interviewed on TV, and I don't get nervous, but when you're like on stage in front of just a couple hundred people and they're all just staring at you and in this room, it's like, oh gosh, you know. So the show went really good. After the show, we decided our music that we were making was like dubstep, like hardcore headbanging, like intense, like everybody just going wild. I realized that's not really my scene. So I didn't really know that until that show. I was like, okay, this is a little too wild. So we're gonna transition into more like techno, like chilled house music,
like
kind of
David
stuff.
Guetta or whatever how you pronounce his
Yeah,
name, like
basically.
that. Yeah.
So you could kind of like turn on the radio and like
I think that'll be more popular, you know.
It will be for sure.
And then
man.
you get like a singer, like what's that the one he had that girl with that song. I forget the song. Yeah.
There's a bunch out there. So
whatever. You just got to get a hot girl to sing over your stuff, and you'll be fine.
It will take off.
That's always the recipe for a success.
Yeah,
yeah.
It helps you build a brand, man, for sure. So
yeah.
We have a couple songs being released.
But does your partner in that agree with you? Like, hey, like this got too crazy. Like,
yeah, because the problem was that
that's like seizure music. Like, okay, every 100 people having seizures.
Dude, that's literally what it was. 100%.
Yeah, that's fucking
and
funny.
He agreed because he has his own brand that he does too, and
separate. Yeah.
It was almost too similar to what he does already. So like we decided like it makes more sense to like completely do something different that I really care about and want to do, and something that's totally different from his personal project that he has going on. So yeah, I think it's going to work out, man. We have a couple songs being released here in the next few weeks on all platforms under Elusive. Miami Music Week is at the end of the month, and
you heading down there,
like radio shows and stuff.
You gonna head down to Miami?
I am, dude.
South Beach. Davey Hamilton Jr. in South Beach.
Yeah, no, it should be fun, man. It's but then on top of that, I have a couple other business stuff that I'm working on the side. That's like there's nothing really out there right now. I'm partnered on this energy drink though, Thin Energy. Remember you had some out?
Well, oh my God, it's really. I was gonna say like let's talk about your sponsors as well, because you can't do it without them. And obviously, being a racer and businessman, we want to talk about that. So yeah, talk about your sponsors now and all the people that are actually supporting you, because without them. And now Thin Energy, man, like I met the people in Thin Energy. They came to Long Beach last year. I drank the shit out of that. It was really good. I was like, I drank too much because I remember I was like on lap like 4 or 5. I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and you just don't. And I didn't. Believe me, I'm not like Will Power. I'm not going to the bathroom in there.
You gotta go, man.
No, I mean. I'm not in a 3-hour race at that point. If it was like an endurance race, I would have done that. But our SST races are 30 minutes. I'm an adult. I can hold it for 30 minutes.
I'm an adult.
But yeah, so you got quite a few sponsors, which is good. It's so talk about them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that believe in me and believe in the mission that I have, and fortunately, they don't like. The good thing is that all my sponsors are like family to me now, and none of them care how I perform. So it's just a bonus that I'm doing so well in racing, because they're with me. They're not with me because of the wins. So I have a lot of sponsors to thank. Obviously, Thin Energy is one of my biggest backers, along with Morgan Exteriors, which Morgan Exteriors they're based here in Florida, but that's who I drive the sprint car for. That's like my main team. Then I got Rip Print, which happens to be the hoodie that I'm wearing, but they handle all my merchandise stuff. So like all the new Davey Hamilton Jr. swag.
So what's your website? DaveyHamiltonJr.com?
Yeah, that's one of them. You go to DaveyHamiltonJr.com. You go to shopdhjr.com.
I like that hat though.
Dude, camo DH, you can't beat it, man.
Yeah, I would say B. Can you change the D to a B? And then be BH. Oh. But I don't necessarily like the DH. I like the camo hat. I like the hat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like a Bill Hynes hat. There you go.
Get a thrill hat. Yeah. With an eagle on it, or just an eagle. No, actually, I'll wear your gear. Like, actually, I'm wearing Max Gordon's hat, who I love Max Gordon, man. I think he's like, I call him like my little nephew. And that's why, like, if people see on the track. You know, that incident I had with Bo Lamastis, the Crosley, whatever.
My gosh.
Like, my point is, like, with that, it's like, you know, hey, he's 13 and I'm going to protect him. I'm going to be a little enforcer for him. And, you know, you try to kill the kid, you know, you feel the same way. If you see something going on, like if your race is not going so well, because some days you have the car that has it, but you're on the track and being a veteran, you're going to police, you like, because at the end of the day, we want to put on a good show.
Yep.
So shit like that happens. I did that in Australia once. The crowd went nuts because I took out.
Well, like that's the thing with you is like you don't take any BS. You've been around for so long, and like you said, Max is a young kid. I don't really know what happened, but now that you mentioned that, I'm going to go back and watch the video.
Oh, Bo was driving him off a ramp. So, you know, going into China Beach, it's not a xenophobic name. It's actually the name of the in mid-Ohio. It's called China Beach. So going down that back straightaway, you know where the kink is right there? Well, well, you know, in a car, it might be okay, but in a stadium super truck, you know, like the minute we're going like 150, 160 down that backstretch, he was pushing him off into the dirt. And you know, if we go sideways in dirt, whether those those Continental tires or Toyota tires, they're going to bite and you're going to barrel roll. Like if we go sideways at that speed, we're rolling, and it's bad. And you're like, I remember barrel rolling in Adelaide, Australia, a couple of years right before COVID, and I'm just like literally, it's all slow motion. I got to send you that video. Like they never put it out publicly because it's bad. But I'm in there like, when is it going to stop? And then I'm thinking like, when it stops, it's going to hurt because usually you stop when you hit something very hard. But I didn't hit anything hard. It just like, I landed and I'm like looking, and then there's like a whole crowd. It was that Thursday where they let all the school kids in with their little hats and shit. And and I like climb over the fence and I signed autographs for an hour. And the medical guy's like, you got to go sit, you got to go into the thing. I was like, I'll go later. This is fun. And like, anyway, so we were going down to China Beach and he was trying to run him off the road. And then every time, so Max would pass him, right? So then he would miss a jump, right? And then he would miss a jump to pass Max back. Max had like 12 passes in the race on him because he kept missing jumps to pass him back. So I just got fed up with it. So like when the race ended, I just like I basically pit stopped him. But then our bumpers got hooked up. So I'm like, fuck. I was just going to try to spin him out and go. And I was like, you know how the SST bumpers can sometimes get. So I blame the engineering team at SST for the bumpers getting it. So he gets out and he was like trying to grab my helmet. So I was like, bitch slapped him. Yeah. And then he threw like a steering wheel at me. And then he tried to spray me with a fire extinguisher. And it's like, and then the next race was the next day. The guy, one of the corner workers came with a referee shirt on and a whistle. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. I'll post that on like in social media. But yeah, that's what happened. And like you said, like, I don't want that to happen in our racing. Okay. Cause it's dangerous enough, but it's like, you know, if you're in Indy Lights or IndyCar, SST, especially when you were purposely leaving the ground, to have a driver that shows total disrespect for the sport and to cheat, you know, it's, you know, I'm going to do something. I did it.
Fed up. Yeah. Well, that's why in Long Beach last year, I got tired of a particular someone that took me out while I was leading in the first race.
Who's that?
And then the second race, he was moving everybody out of the way, and I was just like, I was fed up with it too, and I stuffed him in the wall. I
got to go back and watch that now.
Accidentally stuffed him in the wall.
Oh no, we knew. Who?
You know, and I don't know if you remember that, but
now I'm going to watch that again. Yeah,
I was so just fed up with that guy. But
was it Sean Richardson?
No, what is it? Brooks.
He's sometimes okay, Brooks drives aggressively, and but I mean, good kid, but sometimes like he's not a full timer in the series, so he doesn't know. But actually, I had to do that Sean Richardson one time, and he literally was like, "All right, mate, I saw what I did wrong. I get it." Like we came back down. It was Adelaide down past turn 8 to kink, and I was so far behind him. I came from another zip code. And I was like, I'm just not braking. I am taking him out at this corner.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yep. See that?
I
Yeah.
punted him and popped his tire. I like used him as a stop, and then I was like that. And we went. You ever do that? And you make eye contact with the other driver, and they know that you know, and you're like, all right, bye, and you peel off. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah.
So it's fun. It's fun.
I'm kind of curious, dude, because like I've seen you take some big hits, and I've seen you crash pretty hard.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in like? I want to think of like Watkins Glen. That last time you guys were there. Dude, you hit the sand barriers. Like
I hit the attenuator coming in. Yeah, but they're just.
Yeah.
I thought that I was like, oh my, because I was behind Robbie. Actually, I was in P3 at the time, so I was like, Robbie passed me to go into P2. I'm like, this is great, and there was only a couple laps left, so I'm just like, all right, well, this is cool, and so they actually wiped the results of the race out, and then we had to do it the next day in the rain, which was like a mess because it's like Bambi on ice with these trucks. So I'm going, and I try to stick with Robbie, and it's like, all right, trying to stick with Robbie in an off-road is like next to impossible. Like the guy can just turn it on and off. It's like,
right.
If you can beat him, you beat him. And then I turned and I was like, fuck, I'm not making this. And I was like bracing myself for the worst impact ever because it was like head on.
Yeah.
I hit the sand barrels and nothing, and I just rolled over it. And it didn't even feel anything. And then I hit the jump and I'm like in the car. I'm like, well. And then, man, the president of Watkins Glen came up and he's screaming at Robbie. He's like, you drivers gotta learn how to drive. And I'm like, so you didn't like that? And he goes, no, where the fuck is that guy? I'm like, it's me. He wanted to kill us. Yeah.
That's probably why we never went back.
Yeah,
right?
But they did that 2 or 3 times in NASCAR. In 2008, somebody did that, and a really popular driver did the same thing. But but I blame it on the whoever made the race, because why would you put a chicane? And they did the same thing in Townsville, and then Paul Morris drove up the side of it, and then just like a turtle just went on his roof.
Yeah,
Fucking funny.
So have you ever been hurt then? I guess like injury wise, like from a truck race?
In 2014, in 2014, BJ Baldwin hit the back of my truck and basically broke an axle. And at the point, I didn't know what that meant because I still had some drive, but only I think my left tire had drive. I went up. I'll send you the video, and I went off the jump a gap jump, like the big container jumps. Right, went off of that with not enough power, and then I like just lawn darted it, and I did a flip. I got knocked out, and literally, I think I probably did the best donut of my career in that accident. But I was knocked out. And Steve, one of the mechanics, who's now like a really good electrician in California, he like waited, and jumped in the passenger side window while the truck was doing donuts. It's pretty, like, you got to see this video. He's like jumped in and he hit the kill switch. And then I went to the hospital, and I wake up, and they're like bringing me and I'm like, did I win? They're like, you lost, like, badly.
Yeah.
But that was just like a concussion and stuff like that. But I never got really hurt. And I think, so to your point, I think most drivers who get their backs hurt, and I think, who's that one driver? Jimmy Vasser, really hurt his back with SST.
Yep.
You got to angle your ass. Like, say if this is the seat, you got to angle your ass down. So like when I get in the truck, the seats are more up and down.
Yeah.
You almost want to put a wedge so that your back is not actually touching the back part. There's like a little gap in there, and I come down. So I'm trying to scoop my legs up so that when I land, I'm not coming down like this. It's almost like that.
Okay.
So I've never, like the first race, I hit my tailbone so bad. I literally went, it was in Toronto. I went to the local pharmacy and got one of them fucking foam things with the hole in it. So when you got hemorrhoids, I'm like putting that in the seat.
Right.
And then I figured it out. I was like, okay, if I just scooch myself down, put like a little pad in the lower part of my lumbar back, so I'm not sitting like this. I'm sitting more like angle, almost like an open wheel car. You know how you're like, I did that, and I noticed when I land, that energy doesn't come through my spine that way. And I wish I told people like that, like I try to tell any new driver, like, hey, if your tailbone is directly straight down when you land, it just, my God, it just jolts you. And it's like, okay.
Knocks the wind out of you, man. Like,
I
was having a hard time breathing. I stopped hitting the jumps at Long Beach because it was like was too
pussy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
Just kidding.
Well, I was last, so I didn't really care, but it was just
But I love when I see younger kids or like newer guys and they're like even younger than you, like, and they're missing the jump, and I'm like, I'm 50. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And I'm just like pinned, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon Creed, actually, he was like 17 at one point. When he was 16, 17, he would actually, like, I'm taking advice from this kid. And he's like, Bill, and him and obviously Robbie Gordon really taught me how to jump, like, for that. And basically he was like, hey, the people who get hurt on the jumps mostly, one, like, if you come off sideways, you know, and you land in it, that hurts your ribs. But if you actually have to go fast, you have to have, like, pin that sucker. The slower you go, because then you come up and you come right down.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just, so now, like, if you look at my Bristol race, I was hooked up for that first race, and I wasn't lifting. I was hitting that jump, and I was just like you just you take the energy with you. Yeah. And whereas if you're going slow, like, you're coming up and you're coming straight down, that's like the worst thing you could do.
Oh, yeah. It was terrible. Like, that's where, like, in sprint cars and everything else, you know, the seats are molded.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would help anything in the SST. I don't know if you really could do that, because
I think no, because I think with the molded seats, they're harder.
Yeah,
I mean, unless they make a memory foam, like, hybrid mold, I think more important is that it's like foam and, like, that hug you, because like my seat, you know, now the ones I have now, like, the older ones had just too much gap in there and there's too much movement, so there's no, like, side support. And again, if it's great if you go jump and land straight, but you know how sometimes you hit and you're loaded one way, and if you land like that and it just throws you that way, it cracks your rib over here, and then you get thrown this way, and it's like punching you. People say, what's it like? I'm like, I don't know if you ever boxed. Like, I boxed in the Army a little bit just for, like, practice, like, just goofing around. It's like getting jabbed to the punched in the ribs, like, badly.
Yeah, that's what people would always come to me like, man, does it hurt? Or, like, those things look like you're just laying on pillows and it's so soft. I'm like, you guys don't.
If you do it right,
you get thrown around.
You get beat the fuck up. That's why, honestly, could you imagine if we had, like, pit stops where we refueled and it was like a 2-hour race?
That would be, I mean, you would not survive, but that would be so fun.
I think 2 or 3 people. I think whoever's in clean air in the front would finish, because then they're not, because you could do everything technical. Like, when I had that lead, I looked up and I was like, nobody's around me. And even the announcer at Bristol was like, oh, Hynes is just, like, taking it easy. Because I was watching everyone just take each other out. I'm like, I'm just going to chill. Yeah. And, you know, even in, like, an open wheel car, or even in your, like, when you built up that lead at the Dave Steele race, I think you backed off a little bit, like, not much, but like a couple tenths to be like, I can save my shit. And if there's a yellow, if something happens, then I have it. And they're fighting you to get, like, they're fighting to get back to you, but they're killing their tires. And that's like,
Yeah. So, like, the good thing is, like, with the non-wing sprint car races that I do, you have a spotter. So
that's true too.
The spotter can kind of tell you your lap times and, you know, how other people are driving. And I was able to slow down a little bit to just kind of maintain the tire wear until the end of the race. And but it's like, you know, in a SST truck, you have a mirror, but that's really all you get, you know, and it's not easy to kind of gauge everything just from that one little mirror. But yeah, it does help having a spotter to kind of.
Yeah. I wish we had a spotter in SST.
That would make things fun.
One thing I wish in SST, and I think it would set us apart, I wish we had, like, some people say car or truck to truck communication, but that would be like mayhem, because, like, you know me, I'd be like, Bo, you piece of shit, they can stop fucking with Max, or I'm taking, like, that would be bad. But we did it a few times, and I think we did it even before IndyCar and NASCAR, you know, how, or SRX series, where, like, the announcers, especially in Australia, would talk to like Paul Morris during the race. Like, that, or even in the race, because I think, like, it's so much fun. So that, like, even Matt Brabham's like, you know, the first time he did it, he goes, I nearly shot myself. But in Australian, that means shit himself, right? That's
right. Yeah.
So, but for us, it's like some of the most fun form of racing, but it doesn't translate when we're out of the truck. It's like when we're in the truck, we're kind of like, even Bert Jenner says like, hey, you could finish last and still be happy in SST because it's just like you get out like fun and we're a brotherhood and we care about each other's safety too. That's the other thing.
Except when you put PJ Jones and Ari,
that's the
together.
best. I actually told Scott, so the marketing team from SST, I told Scott and Bobby, I said, you got to find the Detroit, like all of the times where they were in races together, that could be like a 15-minute highlight clip because like one race, Ari would take PJ out. The one race, I was behind Ari and PJ. PJ points Ari by like he had a mechanical. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to follow Ari.
Yeah.
He takes out his back tire, pops his tire, and then Ari's like, what the fuck? And, PJ, accomplished race car driver. His dad, Parnelli Jones, they're not taking shit. Ari, obviously his dad's Ari Leyendijk Sr., one of the fastest guys that are around, two-time Indy 500 champion. So they're these two guys that are not going to give an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And then you're in the race. So like all three of your dads were former IndyCar drivers and you're just like beating the shit out of each other. So it's fun to watch.
It was fun after the race too, or even Long Beach, because I remember it was 2017, I think, and you got PJ and Ari just going at each other in the driver's meeting.
Yeah, they're leaning on each other, but it's fun to watch. Like I even watched like Gavin Harlan, the 2022 champion, like him and Stout and Max. They had a really great season this year. I wish there were more races. I think. I still think Gavin would have pulled it out in the end. I think for this year, I think I got my money on Stout this year. I think Stout's going to finally break through. He's learning it. I think if you were in it full time, I think you'd be a contender for a Stadium Super Truck Championship. Like me, I'm just out there having fun.
Well, that's like you said, man. If there was more races, because I think if you had more races, there'd be more full-time guys. The problem is
sponsors. Sponsors don't want to be like, oh, you got 5 events. They want to build on that
same
brand.
amount of money and go race something 16 times a year. And something else
or more.
So it's tough. Hopefully in the next busy with the UTV deal. Hopefully after that kind of slows down a little bit, more Stadium Super Truck races can come back.
I'm going to be testing this KTM. I forget the name of the damn car.
Crossbow?
Yeah. This CGA Motorsports has one, and they wanted me to come test it. And I'll probably be doing some endurance races with them, so I get to pick the team around me. So I'll probably invite you out and brab them. Like that's a good team, right?
Yeah.
So
and Matty was just staying here actually.
Really?
This past week. Yeah, when he was in town.
In your bed?
I have a guest room, man. But
with his lovely fiance Kim?
No, she didn't come down.
Oh no, okay.
He literally just came down to do 2-seater and left.
Oh, okay. I'm stealing their dog. So
I believe it.
Brumby, I love that dog. I actually have a photo of their dog, like me kissing me at Road America. Like their dog loves me. I'm like Uncle Bill to that dog. I love that dog.
Uncle Bill.
Yeah, I am. But anyway, it was great to talk to you. We're gonna wrap this up. And I like all the listeners, that great to see Davey Hamilton Jr. On the podcast, and just tell us like what's your next race, and then when's your next DJ event, and then like drop your socials so people can follow, and then we'll also put them on the YouTube video and everything. So we'll tag it, and even in the clips on Instagram, we'll do all that. And anyone like follow this kid. I call you a kid because to me you could be my son, and if you were, I'd be proud of you too, because hey, there's adversity in life, and things don't go your way, and you just keep trying and you learn that from your dad, and you keep doing that. I mean, when the final book on Davey Hamilton Jr. is written, it's going to be a very well written book, and I'm proud of you, Davey. Just so you know.
Well, I appreciate it, Bill, and I mean, you and I have been friends for years now, but I think recently, the past couple of years, you and I have gotten a lot closer.
Yeah.
And me and you have kind of clicked and bonded on similarities,
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me on this show, man. I think this is a cool thing that you're doing. And but yeah, so our next sprint car race is March 18th in Orlando, Florida.
Nice.
But if you guys want to follow me, all my tags are just at Davey Hamilton Jr. I post my updates, and my schedule will be posted here soon. And then you go to my website, daveyhamiltonjr.com, my online store, shopdhjr.com, And then if you want to follow the music stuff, that is We Are Elusive.
Nice.
So, yeah, just check it out when you guys get a chance.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to the ThrillCast, and have a great day. Bye now.